So let me tell you the story about something that happened to me a while ago. It's one of those things that kind of leaves you feeling, well, a little off, like you wish it never happened, but it did, and now it's something you can't forget. It all started on a Friday evening. I was getting ready for a night out, feeling cute, just a mini skirt and a simple top. One of those outfits that just make you feel confident, like, yeah, I look good tonight. My husband and I were supposed to meet some of his friends at a bar. Honestly, I wasn't super into it, but you know how it is. He wanted me to come along, and I wasn't about to say no. Anyway, I'm finishing up getting ready, checking my reflection in the mirror and just feeling good. The outfit was simple, but it made me feel a little bold, just the right amount of skin showing. It wasn't too much, but enough to make me feel like I wasn't invisible. I figured, why not? Tonight was going to be fun, but I wasn't expecting what was about to happen. So we head to this bar, nothing fancy, just a chill spot where everyone gathers after a long week. We walk in, and as soon as we do, my husband spots his friends. Of course, he immediately goes off to talk to them, and I'm just left standing there like, okay, now what? Now, I'm not the type to just stand around looking awkward, so I decide to grab a drink. As I'm walking up to the bar, I notice one of my husband's friends. Let's call him Will. He's there chatting with a couple of people, and when he sees me, he does this double take. I'm talking like really staring at me. It wasn't just a quick glance. It was a look that lingered. And let me tell you, I noticed. I'm standing there, waiting for my drink, trying not to make a big deal of it, but you could just feel it. The air shifted. It was like he was sizing me up or something. I mean, yeah, I get it, I looked good that night, but the way he was looking at me made me uncomfortable. He wasn't just looking at me like a friend's wife. No, it was different. My heart starts racing a little. I was never the type to pay attention to stuff like this, but it was impossible to ignore. And the worst part, I didn't know how to act around it. Should I just brush it off and pretend like nothing was happening, or did he notice that I noticed? The tension between us was suddenly so thick, you could cut it with a knife. I tried to act casual, sipping my drink, but Will kept talking to his friends. Only his eyes kept flicking back to me. I could feel it. Then, out of nowhere, he walks over to me. So there I am, standing at the bar, just trying to keep my cool, pretending like I didn't notice how it was practically glued to me with his eyes. My drink's in my hand, but my mind's somewhere else. Like, why was he looking at me like that? Was I imagining it? But nope, it wasn't in my head. He was definitely coming over. I see him making his way through the crowd, and my stomach drops. I try to act normal, but my pulse is picking up, and I can't shake the feeling that something's about to go down. Something weird, something that I'm not prepared for. He finally reaches me, and there's that awkward moment where we kind of just stand there staring at each other for a beat too long. "Hey," Will says, a little too casually. I can tell he's trying to play it cool, but there's an edge to his voice that wasn't there before. "Hey," I reply, giving him a half smile, just trying to keep the conversation light. I mean, this is my husband's friend, right? It's not like we should be having any weird moments. But then, instead of the usual small talk, he goes, "You look great tonight." Okay, that's not totally out of the ordinary. People compliment each other, right? But something about the way he said it made my skin crawl a little. It was like he was trying to let me know that he wasn't just talking about how I looked in general. He was talking about something else, something more personal. The way his eyes lingered on me, it was like he was seeing more than just a friend's wife. "Thanks," I say, trying to brush it off. I'm just here to have a good time. I'm trying to keep it light, try and pretend like it's all normal. But deep down, I'm wondering why the air feels so thick all of a sudden. I can't help but notice how Will's standing way too close now. There's no space between us. He's acting like we're old pals, like he's not even acknowledging the fact that he's my husband's best friend. "How's Jeff?" Will asks, leaning in a little too close, and I immediately tense up. Jeff is my husband, and of course, I know what he's doing. He's trying to steer the conversation back to something safe, something that feels less, well, off. but it doesn't work. It's like he's doing it on purpose, almost as if he's testing the waters. He's good, I say, my voice sounding a little too high-pitched, even to me. I'm trying to keep my composure, but the tension is almost unbearable. Will nods, his eyes still not leaving me. And then I kid you not, he does this thing where he lightly touches my arm, just a quick, almost imperceptible touch, but it sends a shock through me. Like, what is he doing? I try to ignore it, but my heart is pounding. This is not how I imagined tonight going. He doesn't pull away immediately. Instead, he just stands there, looking at me like he's waiting for me to react. I can't even breathe right now. I mean, this is my husband's best friend. We've known him for years, and never once have I felt anything like this. I can't let it show. I can't make a scene, but I'm not sure how much longer I can pretend that everything's normal. The whole situation feels like it's spiraling, and I don't even know if I want to stop it or just walk away and pretend I didn't see anything. And then, just as I'm about to say something, Will leans in a little closer, his face just inches from mine, and whispers, "Are you sure your husband's okay with you wearing that?" Okay, now that was definitely crossing the line. I don't know if it was the tone of his voice or the way his breath brushed against my skin, but everything inside me froze. My heart was pounding so loudly in my ears. I swear I thought everyone around us could hear it. "Excuse me?" I said, trying to sound casual, like I didn't just feel like I was about to implode. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Was he seriously questioning my outfit? And worse, was he implying something? Will just stands there, still a little too close for comfort, looking at me like he's waiting for me to give him some kind of response, and I can tell he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not just making a joke. There's a deeper meaning behind it. He's pushing boundaries. "I just mean," he starts, but then he pauses. His eyes flick down to my miniskirt again like he's sizing me up all over again. "You know, Jeff, he's a pretty protective guy, right?" Oh, I see now. It's all about my husband's protection. The way Will says it. It feels like he's trying to play the role of the concerned friend, but I know better. He's testing me, seeing how far he can go before I shut him down, and honestly, I don't know how to respond. My mind is racing, and all I can think is how far is this guy really willing to go? "Jeff trusts me," I finally say, trying to keep my voice steady, but it comes out a little sharper than I intended. "And I don't need you to be concerned about what I wear. Will." I try to walk away. I really do. I take a small step back, hoping he'll just get the hint and leave me alone. But nope, Will doesn't back off. Instead, he steps forward again, not exactly blocking me, but just enough to make it clear that I can't just escape this conversation. And here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. He smirks, like he knows he's getting under my skin, and says, "I wasn't concerned, just curious." Well, curiosity killed the cat, I snap back, regretting the words as soon as they leave my mouth. But at this point, I'm just trying to push him away. If I show him I'm not interested, maybe he'll stop. But of course, he doesn't. "Yeah," Will says, leaning even closer, his voice suddenly low, as if he's telling me a secret. "You sure you're not interested in a little fun?" Fun? Did he really just say that? My stomach twists into knots. This wasn't just some casual compliment anymore. This wasn't even a friendly conversation. This was something else entirely. I should have walked away then. I should have grabbed my drink, turned around, and gone back to my husband. But for some reason, I stayed frozen in place, my breath shallow, my mind spinning. I didn't know what he wanted from me, but I knew I didn't like where this was going. And then, before I could respond, Will's hand, yes, his hand, lightly brushes the side of my waist. Not even an accidental touch. This was purposeful. He wanted me to feel it. He wanted me to know that he wasn't going to back down. At that moment, I felt trapped. This wasn't just a casual conversation anymore. I felt like I was caught in some weird game, and I wasn't sure if I even knew the rules. I finally managed to speak, my voice barely above a whisper. What are you doing, Will? Just smiles. It's not a friendly smile. It's not even a smile that makes me feel safe. It's the kind of smile that makes you realize he knows something you don't. And that's when it hit me. I was standing there in front of my husband's best friend, caught in a moment where everything felt wrong, and I didn't know how to make it stop. But before I could even think about what to do next, Will leans in again, closer than before, and whispers something that completely shook me to my core. Why don't you come with me? Let's have some real fun. Just the two of us. No one has to know. That was the moment where everything inside me screamed for me to walk away. But my body was frozen, paralyzed by what was happening. His words hung in the air, thick and heavy, and for a split second, I couldn't even process them. I just stood there, my heart racing, wondering if I'd heard him right. Did he just say what I think he said? Will, I whispered, my voice barely audible, like I was afraid someone else might hear. What are you talking about? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned in even closer until I could feel the heat of his breath on my ear. And then he said something that sent chills down my spine. You know exactly what I mean. You can feel it, can't you? The way we look at each other. The way you've been looking at me since you walked in. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I hadn't been looking at him like that, had I? No, I hadn't. I was just here for a drink, for a night out with my husband and his friends. But now, in this moment, everything felt so wrong. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I try to take a step back, but Will doesn't move. He's too close, his body practically pressed against mine, his hand still lingering on my waist. I want to pull away, but there's this part of me, this stupid part, that doesn't. It's like I'm waiting for something, for him to pull back, for him to stop. But he doesn't. He just stands there, smirking like he knows exactly what's going on inside my head. You can't pretend you don't want this, he says, his voice low and almost playful. You don't have to tell anyone, just you and me. No one has to know. My mind is spinning. No one has to know. That's the part that hits me. It's like he's giving me an out, like he's offering me an escape from whatever I was feeling in that moment, and I hate myself for it, but I feel this pull toward him. There's this strange, magnetic energy that I can't explain, and for a brief second, I'm almost tempted. But then, just as quickly, I snap back to reality. My husband's out there somewhere, laughing with his friends, completely unaware of what's going on right in front of him. I can't do this. I finally pull myself together, my heart hammering in my chest, and I take a deep breath. I'm not that person, I say, my voice firmer this time. I'm married and you're my husband's friend. You need to back off. Will just stares at me for a moment, his expression unreadable, and for a split second, I think maybe he's going to back off. Maybe he's going to let it go. But then out of nowhere, he leans in even closer, too close, and whispers, you can pretend like nothing happened, but we both know you felt it. You want to feel something different for once. His words hang in the air like a threat, like an invitation I can't ignore. I'm torn. I feel my chest tighten, and every part of me is screaming to get away from him, to find my husband, to go home and forget this night ever happened. But still, I'm frozen in place, the tension between us so thick that it's suffocating. Before I can react, just when I think I might finally walk away, I feel Will's hand on my arm again, this time gripping a little tighter. He's not letting go, and there's something about the way he's looking at me now that feels almost predatory. You sure you don't want to test the waters? Will says, his eyes locked on mine. Just a taste. You'll see what you've been missing. I feel a rush of heat flood my face. I don't know whether it's anger, embarrassment, or something else entirely, but in that moment, all I want to do is run. I'm standing at the edge of something I didn't want, something I don't even understand, and the only thing stopping me from taking that step is me. I take another step back, this time more forcefully, pulling my arm out of his grasp. My chest is tight, and I'm shaking a little, but I force myself to meet his gaze. I'm done. Leave me alone. Well, doesn't say anything else. He doesn't try to stop me or pull me back. He just stands there, watching me as I walk away, my heart racing, the weight of what just happened sinking in. And when I finally make it back to my husband, I do everything I can to act normal, but inside, everything was unraveling. That moment with Will, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like something I had to push away. And yet, it's still there, gnawing at me. Something in me wonders if I could have done things differently. But what does that say about me? So I finally get back to Jeff, try my best to keep it together. My heart is still pounding in my chest, and I can feel the adrenaline still rushing through me. I don't know why, but I'm shaken, like I just stepped off a roller coaster and I can't quite find my balance. Jeff is laughing with his friends, completely unaware of what just happened. He's completely oblivious, and for a moment, I think maybe that's a good thing. I don't want to ruin his night. I don't want to ruin everything we've worked for. But then at the same time, a part of me wants to tell him everything. I want him to know what his best friend tried to do. I sit down next to him, trying to act like nothing's wrong, but there's this tension in the pit of my stomach, like it's eating me up from the inside. I can feel my face flush, my hands trembling just a little. It's like I'm carrying the secret now, and I can't escape it. Jeff notices something's off. Of course, he always does. He's not one to miss anything, and even though he's deep in conversation with his friends, I can see the way his eyes flicker toward me. He gives me a small smile, the kind of smile that says, "I'm happy to have you here," and in that moment, I feel like a liar. "So, how's the night going?" Jeff asks a little too casually, but I know he's reading me. He always does. I smile, but it feels forced. "It's good, just tired, I guess." He looks at me for a second, his brow furrowing. "You sure? You seem off." I try to laugh it off, shrugging it off like it's no big deal. "I'm fine. Just been a long day." But then my mind keeps flashing back to what happened with Will. The way he touched me. The way he looked at me like I was something he could take. I can still feel the heat of his breath, the weight of his presence, and I hate myself for it. Jeff leans in, his hand resting on my knee, but there's something in the way I look at him that stops him from pressing further. He gives me this look like he knows there's something more, but he doesn't push. And I don't know if I should be relieved or if I should be upset that he's not pressing me harder. I try to shake it off. It's just one moment, right? One weird encounter with someone who has no boundaries. But the truth is, the more I think about it, the more I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't pulled away. What if I had given in? What would that have meant for me, for my marriage? I try to focus on the conversation around me, trying to let the noise drown out the thoughts that are swirling in my head, but the more I try to ignore it, the more I realize I can't. The night goes on, and it feels like I'm trapped in a lie. Every time I laugh, every time I smile, there's a part of me that knows I'm not being completely honest with myself, with Jeff, with everyone. And then, just as I think I'm starting to pull myself together, I glance across the room and there's Will. He's watching me. I can see the way his eyes narrow as they meet mine. I quickly look away, but I know he saw it. I know he saw the way I reacted when I noticed him. I can feel my pulse spike again, like I'm back in that moment with him. That dangerous moment where everything almost went too far. And it's not just his gaze that's unsettling. It's the way I responded to it. I wanted to walk away. I really did. But why did I freeze? Why didn't I just tell him to go to hell? For the rest of the night, I try to pretend like everything is fine. I laugh. I chat with Jeff and his friends, and I tell myself it's over. Will's just being a creep, no big deal. But deep down, I know it's not that simple. The night drags on, but I'm completely checked out. It's like I'm watching everything through a thick glass wall. I can see Jeff enjoying himself, talking with his friends, but I'm not really there. I keep stealing glances at Will, trying not to make it obvious, but every time our eyes meet, it's like a spark goes off in my chest. I can't shake the feeling that something's not right. That moment, that weird encounter with Will, it's still lingering in the back of my mind like a shadow I can't outrun. It's not long before I feel my phone buzz in my pocket. I pull it out quickly, hoping it's a message from a friend. Anything to distract me from the chaos in my head. But no, it's a text from Will. My heart skips a beat when I read it. I'm still waiting for that fun. You know you can't keep pretending nothing happened. I stare at the message for a good few seconds, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wants to delete it, to pretend it never existed. But there's another part of me that's curious. Curious about why he's still pushing me, about what he really wants. I lock my phone and slip it back into my pocket, trying to ignore the nagging feeling in my chest. I don't want to give in. I don't want to be the person who messes up everything over one stupid, reckless decision. But it's too late. The damage is done. I keep trying to focus on Jeff, trying to remind myself of why I'm here with him in the first place. He's my husband. He's the one I love. But with every passing minute, Will's presence feels like it's closing in on me, suffocating me. I can't stop thinking about what he said, about what could have happened. The more I push it away, the stronger the pull becomes. I get up from my seat, my nerves shot to hell, and tell Jeff I'm going to get some fresh air. I need a moment. I need to breathe. As soon as I step outside, the cool night air hits me, and I instantly feel a little more grounded. I take a few deep breaths, trying to calm the storm inside me, but it's no use. I know what I have to do. I'm standing there just trying to clear my head when I hear footsteps behind me. I turn around, and there he is, Will. I should have turned around, walked right back inside, and gone straight to Jeff. But instead, I freeze again. You really thought you could get away from this, huh? Will says, his voice low, almost like he's enjoying my discomfort. He steps closer, and I feel the same tension from earlier rise up in me. Will, I say, my voice shaking, but I can't bring myself to walk away. I don't want any part of this. You need to stop. But instead of stopping, he steps even closer. You can pretend all you want, but I can see it in your eyes. You want to know what it feels like. Just once. You deserve to feel something different, to feel alive. And in that moment, I realize something. He's not just trying to get me to cheat on my husband. No, it's worse. He's trying to break me. He's trying to get me to doubt everything I know, everything I've worked for. I'm about to say something else when I hear a voice behind me. Hey, what's going on out here? It's Jeff. He steps out from the door, looking at both of us, clearly confused and maybe a little suspicious. Will immediately straightens up like nothing's wrong, and I can see him scrambling to come up with some excuse. Nothing, man, Will says, flashing a grin. Just thought I'd come check on her, make sure she's okay. I can see the lie in his eyes, but Jeff doesn't catch it. He looks at me concerned. You all right, babe? I don't know how to answer him. How do I tell him what just happened? How do I admit that I was almost pulled into something I never wanted? Yeah, I'm fine, I say, my voice unsteady but trying to sound normal. Just needed a minute. Jeff doesn't press me any further. He gives me a quick hug, then turns to Will, offering him a friendly clap on the back. All right, man. Thanks for looking out for her. Will just gives a nod, his smirk back in place as he heads back inside. I'm left standing there, trying to hold it together, trying not to crumble right in front of my husband. And the worst part, I'm not sure if I want to tell Jeff what happened. I'm not sure if I should tell him because part of me knows that if I do, it'll be the end of everything. The trust, the love, everything. But I also know I can't live with this secret. I can't keep pretending like nothing happened. And in that moment, I realize no matter what I choose, I'm never going to be the same again.